Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today, we've got another video in our Start Collecting series. This series is meant to look through all the different Start Collecting boxes available in Age of Sigmar. We will then give a rundown of the units inside the box and let you know whether they are a good Start Collecting box to help start the faction that they are for. We will also then give you some ideas on where you can potentially take this army in the future and just some general ideas on that. So today we're looking at the second Start Collecting box for Cities of Sigmar, this time for Greywater Fastness. Much the same as our last video about the Anvil Guard Start Collecting box, Greywater Fastness in itself isn't actually an army. Instead, it's actually a subfaction of the Cities of Sigmar army. Subfactions are smaller parts of an army and particular allegiances within an army that armies generally are made up of many more of. Not every army is like this, but for Cities of Sigmar, the army is split up into 7 different subfactions, one of them obviously being Anvil Guard, which we've already covered in this series, and today we're covering Greywater Fastness. These are the only 2 subfactions within Cities of Sigmar to use Start Collecting boxes and have them for themselves, so they're the only ones we'll be covering in this series. If you'd like more information on any of these armies and potentially other subfactions, and maybe if there's enough people wanting it, whether these boxes are good for other subfactions, not the Anvil Guard and Greywater Fastness ones within Cities of Sigmar Battletome, we might do that as well. But for now, let's talk about the units that are inside Start Collecting Greywater Fastness. So the main thing to notice about the Start Collecting Greywater Fastness Start Collecting box is that everything inside this box is Dwarden, or dwarfs. If you're an old fan of dwarves, this is a great box to get into Age of Sigmar with because it gives you lots of cool modern Dwarden kits. These kits are, while not Age of Sigmar kits, are some of the very late releases in Warhammer Fantasy and are all really cool. They've got that little bit more mechanized sort of steampunky vibe to them, and I'm a big fan of everything in this box. So let's start looking at all the units. We of course have the 2 characters up the front here, which is different for Start Collecting boxes. Normally they don't have many characters, but this one has 2 of them instead of the generic 1 we see. And the one up front you can see with his hammer and shield standing atop an Oathstone is the Warden King. He is a fighty dwarf hero that leads his armies into battle. Next to him we have a Cogsmith, another Dwarden hero. This one is an artillery general and generally works well alongside artillery pieces. The 10 warriors around them are called Ironbreakers. This is actually a dual kit and can also be built as a shooting option called Iron Drakes. Both units are very different in how they act, as one is combat and one is shooting unit. The last kit, as you can see, is a steam-powered helicopter known as a gyrocopter, or it can also be built as a gyro bomber. So, what do these units do? Well, the Warden King inside this box is a great piece with the box, as he gives you a hero to base your army around. He's actually pretty survivable, got a decent armor save, although not many wounds, but that goes well with the Cities of Sigmar honoured retinue rules. This will allow him to shrug off wounds to a unit nearby him. What's actually cool about this box though is it gives you a second hero to make use straight away of the General's Adjutant rules. The General's Adjutant allows you to generate more command points for the army, so this is a really cool start because it gives you 2 heroes for a Cities of Sigmar list, so you've got your General and your General's Adjutant. However, the Cogsmith at the moment doesn't have any artillery pieces to affect. The Gyrocopter Gyro Bomber kit is not a piece of artillery, and so he doesn't actually provide a lot for the overall box besides being a General's Adjutant. The unit of Ironbreakers is the suggested build and what I recommend to build because it'll be a great unit to have as your General's honoured retinue and also fight at the front lines with him. They're also in general a better unit to learn the game with, as combat is a lot more common than shooting in Age of Sigmar, and you'll find just learning more with a combat unit, as you've already got other shooting units in the box as well, so you don't really need them to be shooting, as you won't learn as much for the game. The last thing is the Gyrocopter Gyro Bomber. I wouldn't really worry which one you build, as they both do a very similar job, although my preference would be with the Gyrocopter personally. As I said, you could potentially build the Iron Breakers as Iron Drakes. They're a shooting unit and it'll play a very different role in the army, but Greywater Fastness does give some bonuses to Iron Drakes, so there is the option to build them as that. Although, like I said, I would recommend the Iron Drakes if this is how you're getting started in Age of Sigmar. So, all in all, I really do think this is a great box for getting started if you want a very Dwarden heavy Cities of Sigmar force focused in Greywater Fastness. It's a good start, however, it's not potentially the greatest army to begin with. You will need to add pieces to this to get the most out of it. There are pieces that just don't function as well as they are, like the Cogsmith, without buying some more pieces to add to it and allow them to really shine and do what they do best. The obviously first recommendations I make with this is bolstering up the units you already have, like always. So you could potentially get another box or two of Iron Breakers, Iron Drakes, and just give you some more units. You will need a second battle line option in this army, so another box of Iron Breakers would be great, or potentially build them as Iron Drakes so you can have one unit of each. Moving on from the units in here though, my next suggestion would be to grab some pieces of artillery so that your Cogsmith can make more use of his own abilities. A great kit for this is the Hellblaster Volley Gun, or the Hellstorm Rocket Battery kit. As you can see pictured, I've got the Hellstorm Rocket Battery on the screen. It's a rocket battery, like as its name suggests, and it has a really long ranged weapon. The Hellblaster Volley Gun is much shorter range, but does have a large amount of attack, so it has the chance to misfire and hurt itself. This would be a great piece to add, as it just sort of goes along with the idea of Greywater Fastness being this industrial army, and your Cogsmith will work well in cohesion with this piece. Another great artillery piece to buy and a great centerpiece for a Greywater Fastness army is the Steam Tank. This is literally a steam-powered tank, as its name suggests again, and it's just a great all-round unit. It's got a good armor save, it has good shooting attacks, and it also has some decent combat potential as well, as it grinds enemies to dust underneath its tracks. You can actually build this as a character unit as well, and this will allow you to buy extra steam tanks and use them as battle line if that model's your general, which is really cool. Who doesn't like the idea of an army of nothing but tanks? Two characters I've got pictured are very different in what they bring. Lord Ordinator is a Stormcast Eternals model that which you can, with Cities of Sigmar, bring in if you already have 3 other units that are not Stormcast. And of course we already get enough units for this to be a thing in the Start Collecting box. He gives some bonuses to all war machines as well, so he compounds the ability of the Cogsmith and makes all your war machines even better. This would be in combination with the Cogsmith potentially giving like +2s to hit across the army. The other character I've got here to suggest is the Rune Lord. So Greywater Fastness isn't necessarily known for wizards, but it does have some extra runic spells that go on a Rune Lord. There are specific things in this army that make Rune Lords better at what they do, so it's a really good idea to grab one. He's also another Dwarden, so continues on this cool Dwarden theme that we have for the army. Other notable things I would potentially suggest for this army are Free Guild Handgunners and the Stormcast Celestar Ballista, which is another artillery piece. You could also go with things like Celestial Hurricanum, which further again betters your shooting units, or potentially you may want to bring in some fast moving shooting for things like Outriders or Pistoliers. But that's my suggestions and my thoughts of this Start Collecting box. I hope this has been helpful to anyone looking to get into Cities of Sigmar via the Greywater Fastness Start Collecting box. If you have any more questions about this, please don't hesitate to leave your questions down below in the comments. If there's a Start Collecting box you're thinking of buying and you'd like to know more about that Start Collecting box to give you an idea on what it's about, please leave that Start Collecting box's name in the comments down below. Lastly, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers now. It's fantastic. Thank you everyone for your support. But I'll see you all again real soon. Stay safe everyone, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now, have a good evening.